So, part two session of question option discussion of 2013 UGC NET question paper, English part 3. Listed below are some English journals widely read by professionals. Screen Critical Quarterly Review of English Vasafiri. One of the above was founded by C.B. Cox and now being edited by Colin McCabe, carries not only critical and scholarly essays in English studies but reviews film, culture, language, and contemporary political issues. Identify the journal. So the options given below are option A, Vasafiri, option B, Screen, option C, Critical Quarterly, option D, Review of English Studies. So we are going to discuss about some of the British journals. Option A, Vasafiri. Vasafiri is a quarterly British literary magazine covering international writing. It is founded in 1984. It derives its name from Swahili, meaning travelers, etymologically linked to Arabic safari. So I got cultural travelers either through migration, transportation, or also in the more metaphorical sense of seeking and cultural home. So this is a court of Vasafiri, and it is funded by Arts Council of England or Arts Council England. Vasafiri is, I got, a journal of post-colonial literature that pays attention to the wealth of black and diasporic writers worldwide. Vasafiri is Britain's only international magazine for Black, British, African, Asian, and Caribbean literature. It is established by Sushila Nasta. So that's all about Vasafiri. So it's clear that it's linked to post-colonial themes. Now option B, Screen. Screen is an academic journal of film and television studies based at the University of Glasgow, published by Oxford University Press. Initially, it was titled The Film Teacher during the year 1952, and later it changed its name to Screen Education in 1960, and finally it was renamed in the year 1969 as Screen. Now, critical review. Option C, critical review. It is a peer-reviewed academic journal in the humanities published by Wiley. The editor-in-chief is Colin McCabe. It published the Black Papers on Education starting in 1969. So Colin McCabe is the editor-in-chief. So hope you got the answer. And the fourth option is a review of English studies. It is an academic journal published by Oxford University Press covering English literature and the English language from the earliest period to the present. So these are all about some of the English journals. Now, seventh question. In Marvel's A Dialogue Between Soul and Body, who or which of the following has the last word? A Dialogue Between the Soul and Body is written by Andrew Marvell, and it presents the conflict between body and soul. The conflict between body and the soul is the theme, and the poem personifies body and soul. And poet injects wit here, and there is a conversation between or debate between body and soul, and they are blaming each other like couples. Now, body says that all sins are the result of many conflicting emotions which the soul is experiencing. So finally, body makes a statement that all sins are the results of many conflicting emotions that the soul is experiencing. Now, next question. In William Blake's poem, A Poison Tree, the speaker's anger grows and becomes option A cherry, option B, an apple, option C, an orange, and option D, a rose. So Blake's tree, and this tree is grown out of the grudge the speaker keeps towards his friend. So eventually, the seed of grudge become a tree, and this tree gives fruit of the grudge or anger. This fruit of the anger appears itself like a bright apple in the garden of the speaker. Now, during night, his enemy or friend get into the garden, and he happened to eat this fruit of anger, which manifested itself as a bright apple. And in the following day, the very next day, the speaker was very much happy to see his enemy or friend died. So this poem is written by William Blake as in 1794 as a part of his Songs of Experience collection. Songs of Experience is actually a follow-up to William Blake's 1789 collection Songs of Innocence. So the merged title is Two Contradictory States of Human Soul, the author and printer W8 and W. William Blake, and it is written in trochaic beat. In fourth stanza, it begins and emphasizes on the first person. It changes with and after first stanza, the emphasis was on I, which is replaced. And the opening line of William Blake's poem, A Poison Tree, is I was angry with my friend. Next question is an assertive reason type question about deconstructive critics. Assertion A for deconstructive critics for how human beings read and interpret signs they receive will determine their modes of knowing and being. Whether those signs come in the form of literary texts or blank statements. Option now reason. The fact of the matter is that human beings use a sign to function in the world and are always likely to do so. In the context of the two statements, which of the following is correct? So we know the codes, right? So this question is about deconstruction. So let's have a brief discussion on the concept of Derrida's deconstruction. So deconstruction, see, you have text on one hand and its meaning on other hand. We can use any loosely defined set of approaches in order to derive at meaning of a text. Deconstruction is a concept introduced by Jacques Derrida, and the concept is explicited in Derrida's 1967 work of Grammatology, which was later translated by Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. Now, so Derrida's Of Grammatology is a very important work, seminal text with respect to deconstruction, which is published in the year 1967, where he discusses about the concepts of difference, speech and phenomena, and also reading and writing and difference. Language is viewed as a system of signs here. Language is viewed as a system of signs, and it has got meaning because of the contrast between these signs. Consider a system full of signs, and we can call this system as language, and meaning is produced due to the conflicting forces that is working out within this language. So meaning is present, but it is deferred to other signs, says Derrida. There is a meaning, but it is deferred to other sign. So what happened in practical sense? Meaning is never present in the text, in the sense that it is deferred to other signs. Now you can see another important concept or term introduced by Derrida, that is metaphysics of presence. Metaphysics of presence. It is a belief, there exists a belief that there is a self-sufficient and non-deferred meaning. When meaning is deferred, you can see that there is an absence of meaning, but metaphysics of presence emphasize on the belief that there is a self-sufficient non-deferred meaning, a concept that should be understood in the concept of its opposite, which is known as binary opposite. You have being or presence in one hand and the binary opposite, that is nothing or absence in other hand. So deconstruction need to synthesize the opposition to make their difference. And it is inspired by Friedrich Nietzsche's fluidity of language over the static forms, beginning with the interpretation of Orpheus' work Daybreak. So identity is viewed as a non-essentialist construct here, and meaning is produced through the interplay of difference and inside the system of distinct signs. That is, identity is viewed as a non-essentialist construct and meaning is produced through the interplay of difference inside the system of, I quote, system of distinct signs, unquote. This approach to text is influenced by the semiology of Saussure. So structuralist approach of Saussure. Deconstruction is a post-structuralist approach. So deconstruction is actually the translation of the concept deconstruction, spelling DESTRUKTION, which is a concept taken from the work of Martin Heidegger. Deconstruction has a task to do with identity, some task to do with to identify metaphysics of presence or logocentrism. That is, logocentrism means privilege of presence over absence. So, hope the answer for this question is clear for you. Question number 10. Ian McEwan's Saturday spans from one day in the life of option A divorced lawyer, option B, an aging pianist, option C, a London neurosurgeon, option D, a famous poet. So, Ian McEwan's Saturday, written in 2005. Ian McEwan is an English novelist. It is set in Fitzrovia, a central London, and the demonstrations take place against US 2003 invasion of Iraq. Henry Perrow, who is 48-year-old neurosurgeon. There are 5 chapters, which is inclusive of his day and thoughts on Saturday, 15th February 2003 Saturday, and the day is demonstrated against 2003 invasion of Iraq. At the day, burning an aeroplane. There is a reference of a squash game in this work, and you can also see an accident with another car, and where the car driver Baxter asks money from him, and Perrow, that is Henry Perrow, the neurosurgeon, notices some symptoms of Huntington's disease on this Baxter, and his mother was inflicted with vascular dementia. His son is Theo. His daughter is Daisy, who is coming from Paris. Has got some. Daisy engages in some war discussions with him. His father-in-law instilled love for literature in Daisy, and his wife was Rosalind. So this is the background of the novel. Now Baxter came with some Nick Force with knives, and Baxter punches his grandfather. First thing. Second thing is that Daisy was striped naked. So Baxter came for retaliation with force, and he punches the grandfather, and Daisy was straight and naked. So Henry Perrow notices that she is pregnant later. Baxter asks Daisy to recite her poem, but Daisy had written a poem of her own, and Baxter asked Daisy to recite a poem, but Daisy recites Arnold's Dover Beach. So this disarms affected Baxter, and his companions flew away, and Henry Perron and Theo knocks Baxter down, and operation for Baxter at hospital was successful. Saturday ends at around 5:15 a.m. on Sunday, and he returned hospital and made love with his wife again. So these are all the events depicted in 2005 work Saturday of Ian McEwan. Now question number 11 is deleted, and question number 12. The author of the book observes, I have attempted through the medium of biography to present some Victorian visions to the modern eye. The 4 main characters in this book are Cardinal Manning, Florence Nightingale, Dr. Arnold, and General Gordon. Who is the author? Option A, Matthew Arnold. Option B, Robert Browning. Option C, Lytton Strachey. Option D, Oscar Wilde. So, Eminent Victorians is a book written by Lytton Strachey, who was one of the members of Bloomsbury Group, the famous Bloomsbury Group. And Eminent Victorians is a 1985 biography consisting of 4 leading figures from Victorian era, that is 3 men and 1 woman. Who are these 3 men? These 3 men were Cardinal Manning, who was a part of Oxford movement, then Thomas Arnold, who is working in a public school, and General Charles Gordon, who was a soldier, and the only woman was Florence Nightingale. And the intrigues of Cardinal Manning against Newman is depicted in this work. Now question number 13. Before moving to next question, we can discuss about other writers who are present in the option. Option A, Matthew Arnold. So Option C is already discussed. That is the answer. Lytton Strachey is the author of Eminent Victorians. So, option A, Matthew Arnold, whose time period was 1822 to 1888. Matthew Arnold was an English poet and cultural critic. In 1852, his second volume of poems titled Empedocles of Etna and Other Poems was published. In 1853, Poems, a new edition, was published. It excluded Empedocles on Etna and included new two poems. First one was Sorab and Rustum, and second one was The Scholar Gypsy. So after that he published poems. Second series included Balder Dead the poem, and in 1861 he published on translating Homer. In 1869, Culture and Anarchy, which is a social criticism, was published. In 1861 he published The Popular Education of France. In 1879, he added a preface for his 1861 work, that is The Popular Education of France, titled Democracy. In 1865, Essays in Criticism, first series. 1888, Essays in Criticism, second series. 1866, Thyrsis, or which is written as an elegy on the death of his friend Arthur Clough in 1861, and 1873, Literature and Dogma, which is a part of his religious criticism. In 1990, he has written poems by Matthew Arnold, and an introduction. Its introduction was written by A.C. Benson, and its illustrations was given by Henry Ospowat, and it was published by John Lane. Now, option B, Robert Browning, whose lifespan was from 1812 to 1889, and Robert Browning was a Victorian poet, and he had published Pauline in the year 1833. In 1835, he had published Paracelsus. Both Pauline and Paracelsus are considered as his long poems. In 1840, Sordello. 1861, Men and Women, which was actually written in the year 1855 but published in 1861. 1864, Dramatis Personae. 1868 to 69, The Ring and the Book. The Ring and the Book is his epic poem written by Robert Browning, and he married Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And we know that Robert Browning had perfected dramatic monologue. He is a Victorian poet of dramatic monologue. Option D, Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet, playwright, and he is best remembered for his epigrams, plays, and novels. About his epigrams are brief, interesting, or satirical statements. Now, plays are there, and his most celebrated novel was The Picture. So, Oscar Wilde's novel, The Picture of the Dorian Gray, is celebrated work, and it includes the themes of decadence, duplicity, and beauty. And Oscar Wilde is associated with the literary movement aestheticism. In 1891, he has written Salome. It is written in French while he was in Paris. He refused the license for English due to the prohibitionism on the portrayal of the English subjects on English state. He has written 4 social comedies. In 1895, he has written The Importance of Being Earnest. In 1905, his De Profundis was published posthumously. In 1898, The Ballad of Reading Gaol is published, which is a long poem commemorating the harsh rhythms of prison life. The Ballad of the Reading Gaol, G-O-A-L, Gaol, was actually a prison for writers and intellectuals. So that's all about the 4 options. Now, question number 13. In his attack delivered on theatre in A Short View of Immorality and Profaneness of the English Stage, Jeremy Collier specially arranged dash and dash. So, A Short View of the Immorality of the Profaneness of the English Stage was written in the year 1698 by Jeremy Collier. It is actually an anti-theatre pamphlet. Here, anti-theatre pamphlet. So, while we discuss Restoration Age, we can discuss about the context of behind the composition of a short view of the immorality and profaneness of the English stage in detail. So it has much. This context has much to do with English, the history of English theaters. So this Collier's work is an anti-theater pamphlet, and here Collier attacks. Listen, first one William Wycherley, second one John Dryden, third one William Congreve, fourth one John Vanberg, and fifth one Thomas de Fay. So nothing has gone farther in debauching. I quote from Collier. Nothing has gone further Nothing has gone farther in debauching the age than the stage poets and the playhouse. So, for Collier, restoration comedy is in lack of poetic justice, and we can discuss about restoration comedy in detail in the upcoming classes. And restoration comedy lacks poetic justice, according to Collier, and playwrights are charged with profaneness. So, example was the provoked wife, the relax, etc. Next question. I.A. Richards' practical criticism, written in the year 1921, inaugurated a new phase in the history of English critical thought. What was the subtitle of the book? So, subtitle of the book is asked. I.A. Richards' practical criticism is a form of literary analysis focusing exclusively on the text, ignoring first one authorial intention, second one historical context. In practical criticism, I.A. Richards analyzes complete. Practical criticism is a form of literary analysis, and it focuses exclusively on the text, ignoring first one authorial intention and second one its historical context. According to I.A. Richards, the total meaning of a word is a combination of first one sense, second one feeling, third one tone, and fourth one intention. The term from an experiment performed on this term is derived from an experiment performed on Cambridge literature students by I.A. Richards. The practical criticism, a study of literary judgment, is published in the year 1929. His student was F.R. Lewis, and F.R. Lewis popularized the term close reading through the journal Scrutiny. In 1960s, structuralism and post-structuralism, its significance was waned by 1960s structuralism and post-structuralism. In US, practical criticism was called as new criticism, which is a mutation of practical criticism. Now, Terry Eagleton describes practical criticism as belle letteristic waffle. BELLE hyphen LETTRISTIC then WAFFLE. Practical criticism is only interested in so-called universals like truth. It consciously reduces the range of meanings of any text might in fact yield, and it is attacked from a political point of view for ignoring identity politics, that is race, gender, and sexuality. Plurality of possible readings is explored by reader and response critics. Now, 15th question. Which of the following arrangements is in the correct chronological sequence? So here, you can see a list of Gothic novels, right, from Castle of Otranto, the Mysteries of Udolpho the Monk, Melmoth the Wanderer. Their chronology is asked. So let's discuss the summaries of works. Castle of Otranto is a 1764 work by Horace Walpole, which is a Gothic novel. Actually, Goth belongs to music subculture. Leave it. So it is the first Gothic novel, and his second edition has got a subtitle, A Gothic Story, which is set in haunted castle. Medievalism, terror is there in style. Medievalism can be traced, and you can also trace elements of terror in the style. Horace Walpole's Gothic revival home at Strawberry Hill House to Twickenham, now which is at the southwest of London. The story of Manfred in Horace Walpole Castle of Otranto, we can see story of Manfred is depicted. Manfred is the lord of the castle. It was the wedding day of Manfred's son Conrad with Princess Isabella. Conrad is very much sickly in nature, and Isabella is the princess. So before a wedding, a helmet fall over Conrad, and Conrad passes away, or Conrad died. Now you can see Manfred, in order to keep his lineage, he tried to marry Isabella, divorcing Hippolyta. Now Isabella escapes with the help of the peasant Theodore, who is identified as Friar Jerome's son, saved by Matilda, Manfred's daughter. Manfred and knights of her father fights to find her, and Theodore hides Isabella in a cave and injured a knight who was but her father, Now you can see Frederick, a ghost warns and steps Frederick back, because Frederick falls in love with Matilda. He and Manfred makes a deal to marry each other's daughters. That is, Manfred accidentally kills her own daughter Matilda for Isabella while meeting Theodore. Now Theodore reveals himself as the true prince of Otranto, and later you can see Theodore marries Isabella. Next is the Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. It is a four-volume work written in 1794 from G.G. and J. Robinson of London. Now, Mysteries of Udolpho. Anne Radcliffe's Mysteries of Udolpho is all about Emily St. Aubert's story. The novel appears prominently in Jane Austen's 1870 novel Northanger Abbey, with subtitle A Romance, interspersed with some pieces of poetry. It is set in a Gothic castle, Pyrenees and Apennines, exotic place of Venice, in 1584, southern France and Italy. Emily St. Aubert was orphaned by dad's death, imprisoned in Castle Udolpho by Signor Montoni, an Italian brigand who married her aunt and guardian, Madame Giron. So Emily's romance with Valancourt can be seen, which is now you can also see a father's relationship, and is there. So these are all about these are all the revolving plots around Mysteries of Udolpho, or the Castle of Udolpho. Now you can see father falls due to illness, and Emily was forced to live with his aunt Madame Cheron, who marries Montoni. He wants his father Count Morano to marry Emily, and ruined Morano. Now Montoni brings Emily and aunt to his remote castle of Udolpho. Morano tries to save her, but she wants Valancourt, and uh, Mon- Montonos was driven away by Madame Giron, and Madame Giron dies, and her inheritance went to Emily. Emily frees with the help of her secret admirer Dupont and servants Annette and Lodovico, and Emily reunites with Valancourt. So these are all about Mysteries of Udolpho. Now you can see The Monk, a romance written in 1796 by Matthew Gregory Lewis. It has got two main plots. First, two main plot lines, or two plot lines. So main plot and sub, we can discuss about its main plot and subplot. Now, first main plot was corruption and downfall of the monk Ambrosio, and his interactions with demon in disguise Matilda and virtuous maiden Antonia. And the second subplot is romance of Raymond and the nun Agnes. So in the main plot, you can see Abe in Madrid, where you can see Ambrosio as an infant was left by which you can also see virtuous Antonia, hear his sermons and meet Lorenzo and fall in love with her. Now, now Rosario, Ambrosio's close friend, reveals that he is Matilda, a woman, and Serpent then bites Rosario, and Matilda nurses her. And Ambrosio kills Antonia's mother and rapes her later, and the convent is about to be burned, and Ambrosio kills Antonia. So the reason is Raymond and Agnes actually. uh, Reason be no, Matilda confesses before she is executed and sell her soul to Satan, not to get burned not to get burned at the stake. He sells his soul to Satan, informs Ambrosio that mother of Antonia and him are the same. That is, you can see incest plus murder. Now Lucifer carries his cell and drops him onto a rock, into the rocks below. Ambrosio suffers 6 days before dying alone and damned for eternally, because he had done incest by raping his own mother, and moreover, Ambrosio is a murderer too. In the subplot, you can see Raymond and Agnes. So Lorenzo's sister Agnes is there, who has a nun who falls for Raymond, son of Marcus. Ambrosio overhears the confession of a nun, turns her over to the prioress of Abbey for punishment. Now Lorenzo acquires a paper bull and releases Agnes from her vows as a nun so that he could marry Raymond. Now, owing to the rumor of Agnes' death by prioress and nuns, the mob put the convent on fire. So you can see how convent was put on fire in the main plot. Now, with Virginia, a young woman helps Lawrence save Agnes from the abandoned dungeon. And you can see marriage happens between Lorenzo and Virginia, and Raymond and Agnes. So these are all the um, plot summary of The Monk. Now, Melmoth the Wanderer, written in the year 1820s, another Gothic work by Irish playwright and novelist Charles Maturin. The titular character had sold his soul to, that is Melmoth the Wanderer had sold his soul to devil. And novel is composed of series of nested stories. That is, nested stories means stories within the stories, and gradually revealing the story of Melmoth's life. A social commentary of It is a social commentary of 19th century England, we can say so, and it denounces Roman Catholicism in favor of virtues of Protestantism. John Melmoth belongs to London. He was a Dublin, sorry, not London, Dublin. John Melmoth was a Dublin student, and he was looking for his ancestor Melmoth the traveler. As per uncle's wish, John burns the Melmoth portrait. A portrait of Melmoth is there. It was John Melmoth burns a portrait of Melmoth the traveler. Alonso Mocanda, a Spaniard, saves John from a shipwreck, and Alonso tries to escape from a monastery with his brother Juan. And in due course, you can see Juan got killed. Melmoth helps to escape, and there they meet Jewish scholar Adonijah, who compels Moncada to transcribe the manuscript, The Tate of Indian, which is haunted island at Indian Ocean. Imali, white goddess, was cast away, and Imali changed his name, Isidora, and he is restored to his family at Madrid. And Melmoth and Isidora marries. Now you can see tale of Gutzam family, which is told by a stranger to Isidora's father. Guzman is a wealthy Spanish merchant, and you can see Guzman has got a sister who is married to poor German musician of Walberg. Guzman's property is restored and their family is saved. Now you can see another lover's tale. See, this I have told you that this is actually a nested story. Story after stories can be seen. Now, the lover's tale, you can see the stranger was replaced by Melmoth, and the tale is about a young woman in Yorkshire, Eleanor, was tempted by Melmoth. Now, after that, you can see a tale of Indian where Isidora returns being pregnant, and there is another wedding where Melmoth kills his brother when he tried to abduct their daughters, and finally you can see that the series and all. So this is actually nested tale, that is stories after stories can be seen in Melmoth the Wanderer. So these are all about today's question option discussion. So, hope it gives you a glimpse of some of the works of English literature. Thank you.